This is the Greg Bedard Patriots Podcast with Nick Cattles.
They're not a front-running team. It's never going to be easy. There's going to be some sloppy stuff. It's not a complete team. There's going to be holes. There's going to be inconsistencies. But all in all, the fact that they were able to fight and hang in there and not completely deconstruct in this game, despite some issues, some sloppy defense, some not so great special teams play here, allowing Miami to come back in and some issues with coverage. They did it. They hung in.
Yeah. I mean, look, they got the job done. I think that the end result says more about the Dolphins really than where they are and than where the Patriots are. I mean, like, Mike Vrabel talked about, being able to take advantage of bad football. I think they did that today. I think the other team was worse. You looked at their self-inflicted wounds on the final drive. But, I think there was a lot of good in this game. And, starting with the offense. I mean, I think, the hysteria, I certainly thought this and wrote this morning or last night. The hysteria over the offense and Drake Maye was just ridiculous last week. And I think they put all that to bed today. I thought that Drake Maye was completely in command. He was comfortable. He was decisive. It looked like a guy to me that took the film and the teaching points off of last week's film and applied them. And I think that's a really good sign that he is a very quick learner. And talking to Hunter Henry, Stephon Diggs in the locker room, they thought the same thing. They thought that he was terrific in this game, but a lot to work on with the defense, the penalties, special teams breakdowns, all that stuff. But look, a win's a win, and you will take it and move on to the next one.
Well, let's talk about Maye specifically here, because again, it was hysterical. And I think part of the fear, I think it had to do not entirely just with Drake Maye, Greg, but that the rest of the team looks pretty ordinary or flawed. And I think that expectations might have been a little bit too high at the beginning of camp. And as things kind of moved along, everyone's like, we might not be that great, but at least we got Drake. And then Maye looked the way he looked last week. And I do think a little bit of panic set in, because it was like, oh crap, if he's not going to be the guy, that's bad. He looked really, really good for a lot of different things. And it wasn't just like big plays or doing the sexy stuff. I thought he was great. Just especially second and long, getting enough plays to make it third and manageable. Ball placement relative to last week. You talk about him getting jacked up and this and that. I thought he put certainly on those two balls to the running backs, the wheel route in the first quarter over there to Henderson, and then the 53-yard gain to Rhamondre Stevenson. Those are exactly where they need to be. You might have to high throw to Hooper on that first drive, but for the most part, like, that was one of the problems last week. He looked sped up, but he was wildly inaccurate. And I remember you saying, accuracy is a hard thing to fix. What do you think was different this week, where he was just able to settle in and make like really good professional throws all game long?
Most of it, John, I just think is, just getting a game under his belt, with, live bullets, so to speak. Really hard to replicate all that stuff, even in joint practices, when you're not allowed to be hit, and your own practices. It's just, they didn't play very much in the preseason. Nobody does. Didn't run any of really their stuff because you don't want to reveal anything. So it's really hard to do NFL offense. And I think you saw this across the league in terms of the struggles that a lot of offenses had the first week, even teams with, guys, a ton of veteran people and continuity. So I really think it was a matter of Drake just, playing in the system and seeing how it happens. I also think, that the Raiders defense was pretty good last week. I thought they had a good plan as far as they wanted to take his legs away. They played a lot of zone. That makes it a little bit more uncomfortable for a young quarterback in a new offense. And I think you're right. I mean, I thought he was in total command. I thought that, motioning guys in and out, his checks at the line, just taking a profit, checking it down, getting 7 or 8, when they were shooting themselves in the foot with false start penalties or what have you. I just thought he was he was really good. His accuracy was pretty good. I just think it's, and I said this last week, I said he's going to be sped up until he's not sped up. And I think what you just saw today was a guy that had a game under his belt and was able to settle down, understood what he was going to see, and a little bit more knowing what you're going to get out of a Miami offense, because they're in the division. The Raiders were completely unique. They really had no idea what they were going to see last week, and that's not going to help a quarterback. And so that Josh McDaniels can get into the film and say, like, this is what the Dolphins are going to do, this is what Anthony Weaver is going to do, that breeds confidence in a young quarterback. And I think that's what we saw today, was a confident quarterback doing just about everything.
Here's Maye talking about exactly that, the difference between last week and this week.
I was feeling good warm-ups. Kind of down here in this humidity, this is what I grew up throwing in, and then North Carolina, and the ball feels good, so spinning it well, and I think from there just trying to get the guys quick completions, kind of let the guys up front kind of get used to the flow of the game.
Spinning it well. I want to ask you, Greg, about the ball distribution here. Again, leaning heavily on tight ends, or targeting tight ends. You got a little bit with Diggs, not much with Booty outside of that touchdown catch. Again, you've got the touchdown pass to Hollins, touchdown pass to Booty, but not much else to those guys. But what you saw in this game, I thought was interesting, and maybe I don't know whether you're tracking it in game or you just can see it better from the press box, because of course Greg is at the game here, covering it live in person. Looked like Stephon Diggs was operating out of the slot a little bit more. Is that a thing that you're, and again, not entirely, because they played a lot of 12 where they were just rotating in two different receivers, and sometimes it was Hollins and Booty, sometimes it was Diggs and those guys, but he did seem to get some slot reps today, and it looked like DeMario was kind of phased out. Is that a 1 week thing, or you think that this is a direction that they might be moving with some stuff?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, Kyle Williams even got, some snaps,
got a few
early, which we didn't, see last week. I think they just wanted probably wanted Drake to have, some comfort, and, having guys available underneath that he has trust in, and Diggs and Hooper, and, Henry didn't, have a whole lot of action today. But, and plus, let me say this is the worst press box angle in the league. So I don't know jack crap about what happened during this game as far as like schematics and things like that. It's horrendous. You're in a low corner. But, I just think that, this was the Patriots knew what to expect. It's not a very good defense there. If you can handle the line, which I think they did a great job of. I was just looking at the PFF's like an initial grades, and I think they only have like a couple of pressures in the game. And really, I think those were the backs. I think, Stevenson, Henderson had a couple of tough reps, 2 holding calls, but I just don't think this defense is very good for Miami. I think the linebackers are weak. I think the safeties are weak. The cornerbacks are, taking people off the street and putting them in there. And so I think that obviously contributed to the Patriots being able to be productive.
Well, that's the thing. So not to do the wet blanket thing, which you've been accused of from time to time, but like, did you predicted a loss? So let's be honest there, right? You had the Dolphins winning this one, so at least that didn't happen. They put up 30 points, the first time since 2022. So that's a positive thing. Did you expect or want to see more out of the offense than you got today? Did you think that they could have exploited them?
And if I hear any of that bull crap, I'm going to go nuts. So I don't want to hear any of it. I can't, I'll probably hear it on 98.5. Like I was just looking at it. Let's just go through it and let's be real. Okay. I mean, I know people think that if they don't score a touchdown on every drive, they've failed. These are their drives: touchdown, field goal, punt, touchdown, field goal. I mean, that's pretty damn good offense. You have a quarterback who completed, I think it was 83% of his passes. 82.6. The running game was good. Rhamondre was good. So like I have no problem with the offense, and like everybody should be thankful about what they did today. It was really good. I have a lot more issues with the defense. What's going on over there? Some of the special team stuff. The kicker can't make kicks, even in his own college home stadium. So, I'm just fine with what they did on offense. And the thing was, yes, I predicted a Miami win. I had no idea. I thought, who knows if Miami's going to quit? I didn't know they were going to be that bad and being implicit. The Patriots easily could have lost this game. It would have been on the defense and the kicker. But I did predict a high-scoring game. I predicted, I think 30-27, I think earlier in the week on my podcast. I think I might have had 34-30. I don't know, something like that. But I figured both defenses were going to be in a world of trouble. And I did on my podcast on this network say that this could be Drake Maye's sort of breakout game. And it was.
Yeah. And there you go. So this is the disturbing part of this. It's a win and it's great. I don't know. I mean, you'd rather see wins than losses. And again, you're not tanking for draft picks anymore this year. So you want to see development. But the defense, of all of the things that we had to pump the brakes on a little bit with this team, I think, again, you're missing your best defensive player and probably the only top 10 player at their respective position on the team right now in Christian Gonzalez. That alone is not enough to explain what's been a pretty bad defense overall in terms of their ability to cover, their ability to tackle. It's not looking great right now. How concerned are you overall with just what you're seeing from the defensive side of the ball against the teams that they faced so far?
I'm very concerned.
They
were not good. I mean, again, Miami barely had the ball in the first half for like 7.5 minutes, and they had 165 yards. They were averaging like 22 yards a minute of possession in the first half, which is just ridiculous. And it didn't get a whole lot better.
10 yards of play.
Yeah. I mean, it was,
while.
It was bad. And if Miami wasn't, shooting themselves in the foot more than you were with delay of games and illegal shifts and, Tua doing Tua things like, it could have been even worse. So, yeah, I mean, sort of when I adjusted my thinking about this season, some of it had to do where Drake Maye was in this offense, which we saw in week 1. This is a very nice development for week 2. And then it was the defense, because I thought that the linebackers weren't very good. We saw that exploited again today. I thought that, you have 2 new safeties sort of, in the mix, and, and you don't have Christian Gonzalez. But that is no excuse for the way that they played defense the first 2 weeks. And, that if this team is going to do anything, like if the offense does this every week, and I'm not talking about even scoring points, the way that they did. Of course, they had the kickoff return that factored into it. But if the offense does this every week, they should be competing for a playoff spot. If they're not, it's because the defense has not been good enough. And they were just getting exposed to man coverage in the first half. They changed that a little bit in the second half, but not nearly good enough on defense.
Yeah, and the one I'm most concerned with is at this point is Spillane, because you already were pretty thin at the linebacker position, and that's supposed to be your guy that you feel the best about there. You spent money to go get him in free agency, looked good in camp and preseason, has not looked good through 2 games.
Yeah, I mean, I also think it's I take a lot of issue with the defensive approach, the defensive play calling in the
What
first 2
specifically?
weeks. Well, I mean, of course, it was the blitzing in the first game. This one, it was the man coverage. And that's the thing about man coverage is, like, you could say, even when Gonzalez comes back, you could say, oh, well, we're going to play man coverage because we have these two great cover corners. And plus, Marcus Jones is pretty good at it. His only thing is he's short, so he gets picked on sometimes in physical mismatches. But you can say that, but here's the thing. Everybody else has to play zone. I mean, everybody else has to play man-to-man. That means Robert Spillane. That means Christian Ellis. That means the safeties. And so, like, if you can't do it, don't do it. Like, I would much rather them, especially in the first half where you're owning time of possession, make them go up and down the field, dinking and dunking. Instead, they're giving up pass plays over their head. Like, they're giving up the edges. It just, probably the most underwhelming thing so far. And I don't know how the Terrell Williams, Zach Kerr situation is playing into this, but compared to, like, let's say, when Belichick was here, when they could, actually, play defense at times, I don't think the defensive approach has been sound for this team each and every week.
Well, why is that? I always have an issue with the idea of coaches having a system that this is who we want to be if the personnel doesn't necessarily fit that system. And again, it's different when Gonzalez comes back. You are able to play man a little bit better there. And maybe it's just, we're not going to change over one guy. We're going to play this way until he gets there. And then that's what we're going to be. We're just going to be better at it. But again, that is interesting to me. If you don't have the horses to do something a certain way, do you have to try something different? How much of that is just stubbornness at this point? How much of it is literally just trickle down effect from not having your best cover guy?
Well, I do think that the Titans, and a lot of these guys came from the Titans with Mike. I think they were kind of we're going to do what we're going to do. But, they also had, pretty, whether it was like a David Long at linebacker, they had very athletic linebackers. They had Kevin Byard at safety, who was a playmaking safety. And, who knows, maybe Craig Woodson gets there, but he is a rookie. Jalen Hawkins has been mostly a, get back safety. And now you're putting him in different positions. I think it's, Robert Spillane is a guy who, I've always liked. He's a good, solid football player, but he's not a playmaking linebacker except in the pass game, like in zone drops. He's excellent at that. But he's not going to be able to run with a chain or something like that. And to ask him to do that is just, to me, not putting your players in the best position to succeed. And I think at some point, they're going to need to have a reckoning, and they're going to be like, all right, well, who are we? And how do we work off of that, instead of saying like, well, this is what we like to do in 3rd and long. And this is, they have to match their personnel a little bit better. And that's another thing. I mean, I did think, Marte Mapu got the big interception. You did see them go with, Mapu a little bit more in dime. They brought coverage. They brought in the, Charles, what's his name? 22, Charles Woods. On at times. So I would like to see, some more packages, and maybe that develops as the season goes along.
Yep. Fair enough there. Greg, we didn't touch upon it, and I'm going to let you go. We got a couple minutes left here before Greg's got a boogie, but Rhamondre Stevenson has a good game. A huge chunk of the receiving yards on that 53-yarder from Maye there, which was a super big play. Again, only 11 carries, 54 yards, but ran hard, hit the hole hard, gave them the necessary juice that they needed after the run game was totally non-existent last week. So it's good to see it get back on track. But I do feel that a lot of people, I don't know if you're one of them, again, you can look at this as the Rhamondre was good game, or you can look at it as the shit. I thought Travion Henderson was going to start to eat into this playing time and be a little better. And as you mentioned, couple bad reps in pass pro, and that's supposed to be his forte. Did well, with what you expect there. Didn't have a great yard per carry there, but really hit the hole hard, trucked a couple of DBs to finish off plays, which is nice to see. Made that catch early on that wheel route from Maye, but not much else. Were you expecting to see more Henderson, and how do you see this backfield playing out going forward? Because again, Gibson was involved here too.
I don't know what the play count is. I mean, I think it's going to be, decent for, let me just check 1 second. So according to PFF, Stevenson played 39 snaps. Gibson played 10. Henderson played 19. They were in control at times, especially late the fourth quarter. Stevenson is more between the tackles. This is Henderson's first road game in this place. I thought the plan was sound. Going in, I think it became clear pretty early on that this was a, Stevenson game. I don't think Henderson's going to do like a whole lot more than what he did in this game, at least for a while. He had 3 touches? He had 5 touches. So, no, you probably want double that. But I think the way the game went is just the way it went.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing is, I don't know how much is a byproduct of a game script or, again, you want to see these guys, you have a couple of guys who might have game-breaking speed and potential, and it's still early in the year. But again, Kyle Williams factored in, but not targeted, got a few more reps, a few more snaps. But again, that's someone, if you want to try to be able to get downfield, might be one of the few people who can do so on this team. And Travion Henderson might be one of the few game breakers where you don't have to be perfect on offense and hit all your throws and not make mistakes. And you might every once in a while get him to pop one. I would figure they would try to find a way to get 10 to 12 touches in there every week, regardless of game script. I don't know if that's something that you agree with.
Yeah, I'm sure that's the plan going in, but sometimes, games just go a different way. And like you said, I mean, his bag, at least, in the early part of his career, is going to be out of the backfield, passing situations. And, when you hold twice, you ain't getting on the field a third time to get it. So that's his own fault.
Yep. All right. We're going to let Greg go. We want to tell everybody quickly at home, you can subscribe. Is this right, Greg? $7 a month? Is that the latest and greatest for BSJ?
Yeah. $7 a month, $50 for the year.
50 for the year. It's insane value for Boston Sports Journal coverage. Not only you get Greg Bedard, but you get Mike Giardi, who also has a podcast here on the CLNS Media Network, contributing as well with his daily Patriots coverage. John Corrales breaking big news for BSJ on the story of the year so far, the Kawhi Leonard stuff recently, and all the best sports coverage in town. Definitely sign up for BSJ, $7 a month, best sports coverage in town by far. And also, you can catch Greg Bedard's Patriots podcast here on CLNS Media, on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast. Make sure you subscribe, rate, and review Greg's podcast. Always good stuff. Brings it every week with his co-host, Nick Cattles. Once again, the Patriots defeat the Miami Dolphins to move to 1-1, 33-27 in week 2. Next week, we've got who do we have?
Steelers.
Oh, that's super fun. Oh, good. All right. So that should be a fun one. You get to see Aaron Rodgers, which should be a lot of fun. So again, thank you guys for hanging out. Thanks, Greg Bedard. And again, check him out. You'll have something up on BSJ, I'm sure, very shortly about this game. Thank you all for hanging out with us. Thank you guys for the super chats and for the comments and all of that. And we will see you all later.